Imagine a world where your digital footprints, every click, every purchase, every late-night search, aren't just tracked, but woven together to predict your next move before you make it. And this isn't some far-off dystopian fiction. It's today's reality.
It's reality.
Driven by a tech company whose reach extends from war zones to Wall Street and runs far deeper than most people realize. Today, we'll be exploring the history of this company, what it actually does, the controversies swirling around it, and whether its stock is truly worth your attention. My name is Nick, and this is a video you simply can't afford to miss. First things first, you need to know that nothing in this video is financial or investment advice. It's just educational content intended to inform you about Palantir. And if this is the kind of content you want to get more of, then smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Now, let's start with a bit of history. If you ask most people, they might tell you Palantir is just another software company working with governments. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find the roots are tangled up in a world of paranoia, counterterrorism, and a dash of fantasy. So, Palantir was founded in 2003 by 5 tech bros: Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Nathan Gettings. Each brought a different skill to the table, but it was Thiel's vision and capital that gave Palantir its initial lifeblood. If you recognize Thiel's name, it's probably because of PayPal, where he made his fortune as co-founder and surrounded himself with the now famous PayPal Mafia. And this includes Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, and other future tech moguls. And it's a topic which we have actually covered in another video, and you can watch that right over here. Now, as you might have guessed, Palantir has its roots in PayPal. The fintech company encountered a problem no bank could solve: digital fraud. Every hour, cybercriminals found new ways to siphon money from the system, and existing defenses just weren't keeping up. So, Thiel and his engineers built tools that analyze data to identify and mitigate this fraud. The turning point for this technology came after 9/11. After that fateful day, Thiel became convinced that the same approach PayPal used to fight fraud could help governments spot future terror attacks before they occurred. As with identifying fraud on PayPal, this would be done by analyzing data and identifying patterns in behavior that could foreshadow future terror activity. And this idea was the kernel of Palantir. But getting from inspiration to reality, it wasn't easy. For starters, Silicon Valley's venture capitalists weren't lining up to back a company focused on national security. In fact, the tech establishment mostly laughed them out of the room, as investors thought there was no way Palantir could break into such a secretive, risk-averse industry. But Thiel wasn't deterred. He poured in tens of millions of his own money, betting on a dream that sounded more like the plot of The Lord of the Rings, which, incidentally, is where the company actually gets its name. In the Lord of the Rings universe, the Palantiri are mythical seeing stones that reveal secrets across time and space. Thiel and his co-founders wanted to build a digital equivalent, an all-seeing platform for national intelligence. Thiel then recruited Alex Karp, a former philosophy student with an unusual pedigree. He had a PhD in neoclassical theory and a lifelong streak of non-conformity, so it's safe to say Karp wasn't your typical tech CEO. Early funding also came from a rather surprising source: In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm. The partnership didn't just offer cash, it offered credibility and, crucially, access. In its first few months, Palantir worked almost exclusively with US intelligence agencies, flying under the radar while helping the CIA and FBI connect their siloed databases. Even with this backing, though, Palantir's path was anything but smooth. The company spent years on the edge of survival, its engineers embedded in government offices, constantly refining the software to handle ever more complex and classified data, facing hurdles every step of the way. Through countless failures and pivots, Palantir survived, driven by Thiel's paranoia and Karp's ideological intensity. The result was that by the end of the 2000s, Palantir had become the secret weapon of Western intelligence, quietly laying the groundwork for a future where data itself would become the battlefield.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Well, now that I've got you, I may as well let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. It's over there where you'll get $100,000 sign-up bonuses on the best exchanges in crypto, as well as 60% trading fee discounts on said exchanges. And you can also get discounts on hardware wallets. All of that in the Coin Bureau deals page down below in the description. Now you go back to the video, I'm going back to chillaxing.
Now, let's unpack what Palantir actually does and why it's known as the, quote, most important tech company you've never used. Unlike most Silicon Valley darlings, Palantir doesn't make apps for your phone or computer, and you won't find its products on store shelves or on websites. Instead, Palantir works almost exclusively with the world's most powerful institutions, offering them its powerful predictive software. As such, Palantir is a software company, but calling it just a software company is like calling NASA an airline operator. Palantir's platforms are built to solve one of the thorniest problems of the digital age: how to turn massive, messy, and siloed data sets into coherent, actionable intelligence. Palantir does this with 4 core platforms: Gotham, Foundry, Apollo, and a recent addition known as the Artificial Intelligence Platform, or AIP. Gotham is where it all started. Think of it as the digital command center for intelligence agencies, militaries, and law enforcement. This platform can ingest everything from drone feeds and financial records to satellite imagery and intelligence reports, then cross-reference it all in real time. For example, during the military operations in Afghanistan, US commanders used Gotham to map insurgent networks, track IED threats, and connect the dots between seemingly unrelated incidents. Next, there's Foundry, Palantir's answer to the private sector data chaos. Imagine a multinational company like Airbus or British Petroleum, with dozens of factories, thousands of suppliers, and endless spreadsheets. Foundry can integrate data across the business, supply chains, sales, engineering, even maintenance logs into a single, unified platform. Employees can then run sophisticated models to optimize production, predict shortages, or even simulate what-if scenarios. It's so effective that after Airbus implemented Foundry, they reportedly accelerated A350 jet deliveries by 33% and slashed costs for the entire airline industry. And then we have Apollo, which is Palantir's behind-the-scenes engine. It ensures seamless updates, security patches, and software performance for Palantir's other products, whether they're being hosted on a virtual cloud, in a private data center, or in a submarine on the other side of the world. And finally, there's AIP, which you'll recall stands for the Artificial Intelligence Platform. The AIP lets customers integrate powerful large language models, like the ones behind ChatGPT, into their most sensitive workflows. But unlike public AI tools, AIP runs entirely on the client's secure private data. And that means a military commander can simulate a ground invasion, or a supply chain manager can simulate a weather disruption, all powered by AI, but with privacy and security at the core. In case you haven't noticed, what really sets Palantir apart is how deeply they embed themselves into their clients' operations. Palantir doesn't just hand over the keys and walk away. Its engineers often work side by side with client teams, customizing solutions, ensuring Palantir's systems become an irreplaceable backbone. And this creates what's known as a switching moat, making it so expensive and complex to rip Palantir out that many clients become merged at the hip with it. The result is that Palantir's software now underpins critical operations across the world. To give you a few more examples, in the UK, the NHS used Foundry to coordinate the pandemic response. In the US, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement has deployed Gotham for investigations. Even Ferrari's Formula One team runs critical operations through Palantir's platforms. And on the front lines of conflict, Palantir's tools are in active use in Ukraine, Israel, and beyond. But, as you might expect, with great power comes even greater controversy. And few companies in tech have sparked as much debate, protest, or hand-wringing as Palantir. For every story of Gotham saving soldiers or Foundry streamlining global supply chains, there's another that reads like the prelude to a modern dystopia. Let's start with the most persistent criticism: surveillance. From day one, Palantir has walked a tightrope between protector and watcher. The same tools that can help uncover terrorist plots could also, in the wrong hands, be used to track ordinary citizens, monitor political opponents, or unfairly target certain groups. This isn't a theoretical risk. Over the past decade, Palantir's platforms have been central to some of the most controversial government programs on the planet. Take predictive policing, for example. In cities from New Orleans to Los Angeles, police forces have used Palantir's data analysis to build heat maps of potential crime, even flagging individuals as potential future offenders based on their social connections and past activities. While law enforcement hails these systems for efficiency, privacy advocates warn they can turbocharge racial profiling, over-policing, and the kind of algorithmic bias that's nearly impossible to audit, let alone appeal. Then there's Palantir's partnerships with the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE for short. Now, reports reveal that Palantir's technology helped ICE conduct workplace raids, track undocumented immigrants, and build profiles using everything from license plate numbers to social media. But it wasn't just on Western soil where Palantir's tools make headlines. In the Middle East, Palantir's software has been linked to AI-assisted military operations, where target selection can happen in seconds, with whistleblowers having raised concerns about the rapid automation of decisions that, just years ago, would have demanded careful human judgment. At the heart of this debate lies a growing field of study: surveillance capitalism. As theorist Shoshana Zuboff famously put it, tech companies now monetize not just what we do, but who we are and what we might do next. While Palantir isn't alone in this, the sheer scale and ambition of its projects sets it apart from the crowd. The company can ingest billions of data points, financial records, medical histories, travel logs, phone calls, and then deliver a God's eye view dashboard for governments or corporate decision makers about individuals, institutions, and everything in between. And here's the paradox. Palantir's most prominent founders are self-described libertarians. Peter Thiel rails against a big government and, quote, the surveillance state, all while Palantir powers the most comprehensive surveillance tools ever built. Cognitive dissonance at its finest. Alex Karp, meanwhile, speaks passionately about civil liberties and the need for strong ethical boundaries. And this tension is woven into Palantir's DNA, a company that claims to protect the Shire, but often finds itself accused of playing Sauron. And there's also the uncomfortable question of political power and access. Palantir's deep ties to Western intelligence, military contracts, and collaboration with US government centralization initiatives have raised alarms about the blending of public and private power. When one company manages data for the likes of the Social Security Administration, the IRS, and other sensitive government agencies, critics warn that the panopticon effect, the feeling of always being watched, becomes not just a metaphor, but a lived reality. Palantir, for its part, insists it builds, quote, tools, not policies. The company points to its audit logs, privacy controls, and alignment with Western democratic values, and argues that refusing to work with Western governments would simply hand the AI and data battlefield over to less transparent and less ethical actors abroad. It's worth noting that many of the controversies you'll find online haven't been formally acknowledged by Palantir, but the deeper you dig, the more extraordinary and sometimes far-fetched the allegations become. And whatever you think of Palantir's methods, the results have been nothing short of explosive, both for its business and its stock. So let's shift gears from theory to numbers. In the last few years, Palantir has transformed from a mysterious defense contractor into one of the world's hottest and most closely watched public companies. First, Palantir's most recent Q2 earnings were nothing short of impressive. Revenue hit just over $1 billion, a 48% year-over-year jump, marking the company's first ever billion-dollar quarter. Even more eye-popping, US commercial revenue soared 93%, nearly doubling in a single year, while US government revenue climbed a robust 53%. Management isn't expecting growth to slow down either, raising full-year guidance to 45% revenue growth overall and predicting over 50% year-over-year revenue growth for Q3 2025. But it's not just revenue that's catching investors' attention. Palantir is making solid profits too. In the last quarter, it earned $326 million in net income, more than twice what it made a year ago. Its operating margin, the share of revenue left after covering operating costs, jumped to 27%. On top of that, Palantir's adjusted free cash flow, which is the actual cash the business generates after expenses, is expected to come in at about $2 billion a year, with over half of every dollar of revenue turning into operating cash that can be used to reinvest, pay down debt, or return to shareholders. In the enterprise software world, margins like these are hard to ignore. Palantir's Rule of 40 score, which adds a company's growth rate to its profit margin, is now an impressive 94%. Among mega-cap tech companies, only Nvidia scores higher. Even more impressive, though, is how quickly Palantir is winning new business. In Q2 2025, it signed contracts worth a record $2.27 billion, 140% more than a year ago. And that includes $843 million in US commercial deals, more than triple last year's amount. Palantir's backlog of signed deals, known as remaining performance obligations, is now $2.4 billion, up 76% from last year. In other words, it has a strong pipeline of future revenue already locked in. And this is proof that the company's strategy of embedding itself in clients' operations, creating that switching moat effect, is working. Once an organization is running its critical infrastructure through Palantir, switching away is almost unthinkable. On the strategic front, Palantir's deepening involvement with the US government has only accelerated under the current administration. Its platforms are now the heart of major national security and data centralization initiatives, including projects with the Social Security Administration and the IRS. The result of all of the above is that Palantir now sits on over $6 billion in cash and US treasuries with zero debt, and that war chest gives it the flexibility to invest in further growth, acquisitions, and new partnerships without worrying about financial constraints. And all of this has, of course, caught Wall Street's attention. Palantir stock has delivered jaw-dropping returns over the past year, pushing its market cap past $400 billion and earning it a place in the S&P 500. But with all this momentum, is Palantir stock a generational opportunity or a classic case of priced for perfection? Well, let's start with the facts. Palantir's share price has exploded in recent years, soaring from just $10 at its 2020 public listing to over $180 today. This meteoric rise isn't just about investor euphoria. It's been fueled by consecutive quarters of accelerating revenue growth, record contract wins, expanding profitability, and a growing commercial footprint. On paper, it's the kind of growth story that dreams and occasionally bubbles are made of. But the numbers alone never tell the whole story. Even with all its recent operational perfection, Palantir is now one of the most expensive stocks in the world by almost any metric. The company currently trades at over 100 times sales and more than 250 times forward earnings. Now, for context, the average S&P 500 company trades at a much more modest 3 times price to sales and around 22 times forward earnings, making Palantir's multiples extraordinary in scale. But there is still a bull case to be made here. For believers, Palantir is building the digital backbone of a new era, one where AI, national security, and data-driven decision-making are the currency of power. Many see Palantir as the next Nvidia, a company so critical to the world's infrastructure that it becomes a category of its own. Many argue that if Palantir can keep compounding at these rates, even at half the current pace, the current valuation might one day look cheap in hindsight. But make no mistake, Everything has to go right for Palantir to grow into that current valuation. Some analyst models suggest that it would need to boost revenue by more than 40% a year over the next decade, taking today's $3.4 billion in annual sales to well over $100 billion over 10 years to justify today's valuation. Even assuming some multiple compression down the line, that's a feat few companies in history have achieved. And there's also the matter of dilution. Palantir's generous stock-based compensation means existing shareholders get diluted year after year, though the company has promised to moderate this over time. And as with any high-flying tech stock, sentiment can turn on a dime if the numbers disappoint. And this is why skeptics warn that Palantir is priced for perfection, to put it lightly. Then there are the intangible risks. With Palantir's central role in government data projects, AI infrastructure, and national security, regulatory scrutiny could escalate quickly if public sentiment sours. Political winds can shift, and with them, contracts and priorities. And as Palantir's influence grows, so do ethical questions and the risk of public backlash. So, what's the final verdict? Well, for some, Palantir's irreversible embedding in the roots of our system makes it a hold at any price, while for others, its valuation already assumes a future so perfect, so seamless, that anything less could spell trouble. But, much like Palantir's history, deciding whether to own the stock goes far deeper than just multiples and earnings reports. At its core, it's also an ethical question. While there's no doubt Palantir's software has done a great deal of good, there's also the reality that it's being used on battlefields as we speak, and you can guess which ones. But as always, we're not here to judge, just to bring you the honest facts so you can make up your own mind. Let's just hope that if Palantir ever does end up knowing everything about everyone, it doesn't abuse that power for the benefit of the elites in its orbit. After all, as the old saying goes, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Just saying. Okay, on a completely unrelated note, if you'd like to see what the global elites have in store for our future, then you can watch our latest video on that right over here. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, you can do that right over here. This is Nick signing off. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.